today's show, you'll hear about automation and robotics and its impact on startups. This is Investor Perspectives. I'm the host of Investor Connect, Halti Martin, where we connect startups and investors for funding. COVID-19 has changed the landscape for startups, giving us a new normal. During the pandemic, it became clear the need for automation and robotics to deliver critical goods and services, especially when workers are in lockdown. We have joining us Drew Tulchin of UpSpring Associates, an investor in the robotics space. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Today, I'm here with Drew Tulchin of UpSpring Associates. Drew, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate the invite.
So COVID-19 has given us a great new set of careabouts to work on from a startup point of view. And today I'd like to talk about automation, robotics, and manufacturing and what you see going on there in the next generation after COVID. Where do you think you'll see investment come in and where do you think the careabouts are? So let's start off and discuss a little bit about how COVID-19 is accelerating those three areas of automation, robotics, and manufacturing.
Sure. So in New Mexico, where I am, COVID has really changed some of the product needs and some of the market dynamics. Certainly, if we look at supply chain, we got to see how sensitive some supply chains are, and you're not able to get stuff or you're not able to get in the time you want because it's in a wrong place or people are shut down. So being able to guard against what you can get in terms of your own materials. I'm involved with a new startup with robots, and they're in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And we're focused on what we call cobotting there, and that is creating robotic or automated work that is alongside human beings. And the reason why that's important is because we really want to see good jobs for people in safe workspaces. And so if robots can take care of the things that are the 3Ds, dirty, dangerous, or dull, and allow human beings to do more of the work or to manage the work, then that creates an opportunity in robotics and a new industry that continues with good jobs here in America, but a new product line and a new sector that's going to be important in a COVID world.
That's great. And so if you look at the different subsectors within robotics, what do you think is going to be increasing the most? And is there anything going to be decreasing, you think, coming up?
Well, I'm wearing two hats, right? So I am both an investor, myself personally as an angel, and also working with the company. And then I'm also helping companies to grow. So if I were to think about both of those places, for investors first, I think you still have the fundamentals. And in my mind, the three most important parts for investment are people, people, people. And you need to know the team. You need to trust and understand the entrepreneurs and the people they have around them, and if they're able to build a successful company. So I don't think that changes, whether it's a robotic company, a software company, or what have you. And if people leave some of the fundamentals because they're doing a shiny object syndrome or something like that, I think they get into trouble. So I would still stick to your fundamental investment thesis on the investor side. On the entrepreneur side, you still want to have the good parts of a business. You want to go into a marketplace where there's a big puzzle and a big problem, and people are worried about capital, but there's still capital for good ideas. So those things don't change. And even though there may be some new market segments that have high growth, you still want to keep those fundamental analytical tools.
Great. And you think we'll see any new applications within the sector that are going to come up?
Yeah. With built robots, for example, there's certainly an increased demand for disinfectant and safe places. We're trying to figure out how kids can get back to school safely. We're trying to make sure that the places are safe for their workers and that airports, people can go, travelers can go into them and have a sense of comfort that they're not going to get sick. So that's certainly an incredible need. There aren't great solutions at the moment. The solutions we do have are cumbersome. They require a lot of labor and a lot of capital, and they aren't necessarily very efficacious or very successful. So a robotic or an automated solution to cleaning, disinfecting, and making places safe and making the air safe is certainly something everybody needs. And if you can prove it and do it in an ethical fashion with ideally a secure supply chain or an American-made manufacturing, I think you've got a real opportunity to provide something valuable to your neighbors.
That's great. You know, they say the saying in robotics, it does all the jobs that are dirty, dangerous, and dull. And so it seems like COVID is giving us a number of new applications from that point of view.
Yeah, and one of the challenges in the robotic conception with sci-fi movies and so forth is that the robots are coming for your jobs. And I don't believe that to be the case, and any good robotic company doesn't want that. You want human beings involved. We can still think better than a robot can. A robot's still going to be a standardized tool. So you need human beings around. The goal is that human beings could then do more and more enjoyable work. So what we really want to see is robots and automation being able to allow more ingenuity, particularly for American companies in this day and age, particularly for regional solutions, so that you can hire locally and provide some really good jobs.
So you see a lot of people that have been displaced from their job because of COVID, and now they're looking for a job. As robotics come into place, picking and packing and doing those type of things, that's not a job for a person anymore. But where are the jobs for the new people to come in a robotics place? Is it just programming, or are there other places that they could find a role or a place to work in a system where there's heavy use of robotics?
Well, I don't think tomorrow we're in a world where automation gets rid of jobs. So there's still a great deal of need for all of our colleagues and neighbors who are out of work. We really need to work together to find solutions, because a healthy economy depends on everybody doing everything together. And united we stand, divided we fall, and also 1 + 1 is going to be equal 3. So it's really important for all businesses, for people to be thinking about how you can buy local, how you can be supporting businesses, how you can be spreading the economic opportunity and not being selfish. So this is a time to be expansive. But if you were to look at my opinion of the robotics industry, then I think people who can be looking at software, people who can be looking at management, marketing is still a need so that it can be communicated, accounting, finance, all those things that you see in a regular business. A robotics business needs those as well. Engineering and some of the technical components are wonderful, but people physically being able to do stuff is also still a need.
Right. And so, based on where we are today, what's your investment thesis for this sector, aside from the team and whatever, but robotics specifically? What are you looking for that you think makes a good investment?
I don't have the perfect answer on that, but I will tell you a couple pieces that seem very visible now, even more so in the COVID universe. One, I mentioned the supply chain before, and you and I are talking about that offline. And I think that that's a really good question for any investor to ask of any company, particularly a robotics company. Where are you getting your parts? How are you putting this stuff together? Where's your IP from? And do you have backups and alternatives? You know, the Porter's 5 forces, which any good business student learns, I think is very valid here. Did the company build a moat, and does it have alternatives, or is it locked in? So that's number one. Number two is, who are you selling to, and is your customer still going to be able to afford your product? So you might have a wonderful new widget, a new robot, a new way of doing things. But if no one can afford to buy it because it's so expensive, or you build with robots case what they call RaaS, or robots as a service, people can't afford a contract, then you might be all dressed up with no place to go. So what's the actual selling? What is the price point, and who's going to buy this, and what's their marketplace look like? I think that's something important for people to keep in mind. And then the third is, who's the competition? Who else is doing this? The industry is moving quickly. Sometimes things are a little obscure, but with the internet, you can still search and find out who else claims they're doing this stuff. And with Builder Robots case, a shout out to our partner called Fetch Robotics, which is a really strong woman-owned company in the West Coast that has figured out some really great fundamentals for basic robotic systems.
Originally, robotics were basically in the commercial area. They were basically vacuum cleaners like iRobot, and they were doing very simple jobs and so forth. How much does the technology move forward in doing more than just, vacuuming your house? How much can they really do today? And what have you seen that really inspires you?
Yeah, great question. Again, let's go watch some sci-fi movies from the 70s, in particular, maybe in the 50s, to see if they're really cheesy. I think the world of robotics is still evolving. Software is making the advancements that I've seen. And again, I'm more on the business side and not the engineering side. I'm sure there's engineers that would disagree, but it's the IoT, the Internet of Everything. It's the software. How do you get these technical machines to interoperate with each other and with other places? The swarm robots that I've seen have gotten a lot of attention, and I think those are fascinating. And then also at the far reaches of this industry is the micro robotics, which really are sci-fi. Could you have a robot go into your body and help you with, clogged artery or another health emergency. We're not there yet, but thinking about how to use technology for good, it's a really fascinating cycle. But to think about what's a little closer, the swarm elements where various automated efforts can each do one task to perform a collective effort more appropriately or faster. I think that's really interesting, and to see how that might apply for us these days. And then the idea of cobotting, where you have an automated component, but you still have the human being doing the work, whether it's the robot lifting or whether it's the robot doing the parts that's dangerous for human being to make things safer for workers and for humans. Those are the parts that are very interesting, because what we really want is a better workplace. And where robots can help make things better for humans is the business component that's going to make the most sense in the long run.
Which of those do you think will be coming to the market sooner because it's further along? Some of these sound like they may be very early and still in development.
Yeah, I think that's true. The cobotting is in the marketplace now. Fetch Robotics has a number of product lines that are already available for consumption and purchase, Build with Robots partner. And the automation side, certainly we've seen it in manufacturing, right? Particularly cars, where robotic arms can do a repeated function or do something that's too heavy. So that's important. One of the things that Build with Robots was also looking at is other dangerous industries where humans are often put in harm's way, whether it's fumes or a robot is going to have a healthier approach to things rather than a human being, or where there's just danger, people getting hurt. And so, again, to use technology and to build a better mousetrap.
Great. Well, it sounds like cobotting is certainly going to be a great thing, as you mentioned, because assisting somebody doing something is going to make it much easier than trying to map in artificial intelligence and all the other tools that go with it. It just seems like that's where the sci-fi films started to leave reality behind a little bit. Made for a great movie, but how would we ever get that up and working?
Yeah, very much so. And, there's just functional stuff that's easier. If I can reduce a few injuries, we don't want to see anyone get hurt, but the cost to the human beings themselves and to the company, and you're just doing it's a bottom line dollars and cents approach. So you install a piece of equipment that is an automation or robotic, and you're just saving the company money and you're doing a job better. And again, you're helping your employees. And so your employees are going to be thankful.
Right. I mean, looking at the robotic space, one of the things I'm always struck with is are there really platforms and standards that people can build upon, or is everything custom made? In the PC world, for example, there's the Windows platform, and then there's the Apple platform for iOS. And on the mobile device, same thing. There's an Android platform, and then there's an iOS platform. But in the robotics world, do you find a similar set of standards that people can build on, or is it still everyone for themselves?
Yeah, excellent question. I was part of early Bluetooth, and it really required competitors to come together to create standards, because everybody knew that was going to allow them to do better and to have the technology proliferate. And you have the same thing with robotics. There's a motivation to make sure that companies are safe, that they have a code of conduct and ethical behavior, and that there is interoperability. And that's where the software developments, the soft side of this stuff, is going to make the next reaches. Anyone, I think, at this point can make an automated arm that is stronger or faster, can move things. But can you get that arm to think, to do multiple jobs, do more than one thing? If you're in a manufacturing space, could you then set it up to have different supply lines? And then do you have it so it can then think for itself or adapt and have some smart learning? Those are the innovations. Again, we're not there yet. So the block and tackle is just to make sure that there's a uniform set of standards, that things are safe, that workers know how to use them, and that companies are doing the right thing.
So if you had to compare this to the personal computer world, just to pick a technology, are we in 1976 or 1978, 1981, where are we in that process? The IBM PC came out as a good solid standard in 83 and 84, and then Apple came out in 76, but it was doing its own thing. If you had to put a date on it, where do you think robotics are today compared to where the PC was in its generation?
Yeah, I really love that question, Hall, because it really makes me think of some of the square glasses and some of the striped shirts that people and some of my engineering colleagues are still enjoying wearing those here today. So that's a fun way to think about it. I really think we are at the precipice where mainframes were still the ubiquity and the desktop was only just beginning. And we still have a long way to go. I think the robotic field has felt that they're at that stage for quite some time. But the practical applications and the widespread utility is still tomorrow's game. We're still at very niche markets with high costs. So the economy of scale is coming, but I think your 1976 timeframe feels like a good example.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. So, the broad-based standards didn't come for about 8 years later than that. Hopefully these may come faster from a hardware point of view. And then you have this new entrant, operating system software that came in. Will we have the same dynamic there? Will we have somebody coming in with software licensing it to everybody that people will use? Or do you think that this market is not going to be that standard? Everybody's going to have their own software platform. We're not going to have one uniform software driving it, because robotics seems like it could be a lot of different things. What's your take on the software side of it?
Yeah, I think, again, it's a really good question. I think back to, you mentioned personal computers. I think cars was also the same example, right, 100 years earlier, where how many car companies did you have? And then you really had a consolidation of the marketplace. It's a little cloudy to see that question because there's still so much innovation going on and there's so many new things that there's not yet a standard. So I think we need a larger industry and a greater N before we can start moving towards a mean. And I wouldn't say that I'm the expert on that, but I'm actually enjoying the greater diversification, because it's leading to more interesting solutions and more interesting products. So that's where I am in my interest in that marketplace. I think you're right, for economy of scale and pricing, and for this to be more standardized, we're going to need to go to what you said. But to me, it's too boring so far.
Right. And going back to our PC analogy, it was really driven by what the software could do and what the integrated circuits, the CPUs could do, and everybody just followed the generations of Intel with it. It made each successive chip faster. Is robotics driven by, integrated circuit and chips like that to do more, or there's some other dynamics that people are going to look at to track along its technical progress and what its capability is and what have you?
I'm not the expert in that area, but again, on the business side, what is feeling more compelling is the use case, because the utility, it doesn't quite matter if it's a really teeny tiny device or if it's a larger device right now. That's not quite what the problem is. The problem is what's the cost and what's the alternative cost for getting something done, whether it's cleaning, whether it's moving stuff, whether it's a safety issue. And so those are the elements where I think people are focusing their attentions more. Once we get those a little bit more regularized, for example, the Amazon warehouse, because I think that's an image that a lot of people could get to. Once we get those standardized, then the idea of a robot going around and picking up a bunch of products to then get shipped out. But there's so many places where automation is possible to make things safer, better, faster, American made, that I still think we're in the gold rush of ingenuity. And again, I'm more into let's have a bunch of flowers bloom, or at least a bunch of robots being built, so that we understand where the opportunities really lie.
So you've recently invested in a robotics company. Can you tell us more about it and why you invested?
Yeah, so Build with Robots is the company I'm working with. And so for me, it is about using my time, treasure, and talents, right? But the thing that attracted me to them, one is I'm here in New Mexico, and it's a New Mexico headquartered company. So it made the co-founders made very strong stand about being in the community in which they work. And that's important to me. That's important to our community. These are two very solid entrepreneurs. Matthew Ennis is a PhD from Stanford, and Chris Zymek has been working as an engineer for many, many years. And so you have two co-founders who have very strong CVs and also a proven track record. So that's a great indicator. And they've also gotten some of their challenges out of the way, getting the failure out of the way, so to speak. And then the other element is this is a safety product, right? So it's looking to make the world a better place. We're not trying to just sell as much stuff to as many people as possible. We're looking at how we help people do their daily job.
Great. And so it sounds like they have a great team and a great product and so forth. What's their target market and where are they aiming for first?
Yeah, so we're in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it's a young company, so we still got a lot to learn. But where the product looking, which is called Breezy One, robotic, it's kind of an R2D2 shaped device that has what's called foggers or these disinfectants on the top. And it's a disinfecting robot, so it's reducing and removing air pathogens. And so the large open spaces is a really necessary place for something like that. And we're working with airports, we're working with warehouses, particularly trucking warehouses, and then large retailers that have large open spaces. And so a robot can go in, have a mapped place, and every night go in, disinfect, and then the cleaning crew can come in behind them because the chemical's safe for human interaction. And the cleanup crew can do their regular job safely, so they don't have to be wearing the bunny suits or have a big pack on with a spraying thing, which may or may not be very accurate. So, yeah, that's the reason why Build Robots exists, and that's what the focus is.
Great. And so what would be an ideal customer for Build with Robots? Is it a manufacturing warehouse, or can it do other things like schools or what have you?
Yeah. So airports is a great focus, so that every night can go in, space so that travelers can be there in the morning with comfort. Large warehouses, large retailers, your Home Depots, your Targets of the world, and then schools, courthouses, large civic spaces, that type of thing.
Well, great. And so it sounds like they have a great technology there and it's going very well. And do you think what would be the next application after disinfecting and cleaning? Do they have other applications they're looking at?
Well, there's so much need in the disinfectant space right now that literally the phones are ringing off the hook because everybody really wants a solution. Everyone with a child who might be listening to this, can your kid go back to school safely in the fall? I think most parents want that to happen, but we have a mixed feeling about a sense of safety. So just getting every school in America to be able to be safe is going to be quite some work. The next step thereafter is to take this technology and have it be available affordably for smaller spaces. The airlines have been looking to make every single airplane safe, but what's the price point on a train or a bus? What's the price point on a hotel and a hotel room and a hotel hallway so that everyone can get back to doing what they were doing before in the new COVID world? And that's pretty much consuming us right now. And when we're fortunate enough to have that solved, then you and I can talk again and we can tell you about our next products.
Great. Every plane, train, and subway in the U.S., you will have your hands full for sure. So we're looking forward to seeing how it goes and wish you guys the best with it. And the last few minutes that we have here today, talking about investing in robotics, what's your word of advice to investors when they look at a robotics deal? What should they be looking for, especially at the team? What should the team be able to do in the world of robotics to make that a good investment?
Try to give the short version of that one. I think a couple things that occur to me that may not be universal. One is, what certifications does the company have or is it going for? ISO is really well known, Baldrige. So what has the company embraced as its standard and its safety protocols? I think that's really an important question. The other thing is, what is the company's connection to its community and what is the commitment as a ethical or triple bottom line company? Not all companies are going to have the same behaviors, but I want to see a company that's thinking about hiring locally, that's thinking about giving back to the community, that's thinking about how to have its products available affordably for a school or some other public entity that might not be able to afford their product right away. And then again, people. Who is this team? Who are they missing from the team and who do they intend to hire? Companies that might have really cool tech, but if the people are jerks and they've got a bad reputation and they have a bad history of how they engage with others, personally, that's a reason for me not to join them. I think in the 21st century of American business, we need to be operating to be the best country in the world and to be the best company we can be. And I would encourage everyone to be contributing towards that rather than taking away.
Great. Well, appreciate you taking time to join us today and hope to have you back for a follow-up soon.
Cool. Well, thank you for your work. Thanks to everyone listening. I'm happy to be able to give solutions if I've discovered stuff. Check out Build with Robots, and you're welcome to follow up at UpSpring Associates.
Great. We'll put that in the show notes. And until next time, happy humming.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining us today. As always, be sure to leave a review, subscribe to this podcast, and share it with others. Let's go start up something today. Tulchin Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for the basis of investment decisions.